Everything that we've done in Ultimate Spider-Man the game is based around the notion that we want to bring this comic book experience to life.
This game's really about bringing you inside the comic book and showing you that world.
We were looking at the Spider-Man games that we were doing and the Spider-Man games that we wanted to do, and we were working with Sony on the movie games at the time. We had originally done ones based out of the comic books, and we wanted to get back to that. And so we looked at what was going on in comic books today, and really Ultimate Spider-Man, the comic book from Marvel, was the hot thing.
So one of the first things that we wanted to do was to go after some of the talent that was involved in the creation of the comic book for Marvel. So we went after Brian Michael Bendis. We wanted to bring him in very early on and have him help to craft our story.
We basically had the attitude at the start of this game that we were going to grab everything we could at Marvel and throw it into this game. Everything that Spider-Man has run into, we wanted to try and use. Stuff that previous Spider-Man games couldn't.
It's just a massive project.
There's something you don't see every day.
Picking the creative team, it's a long process. It's an involved process.
We have a group of around 12 to 15 animators. We have 17 programmers. We have 7 production staff members. We have 15 game designers. We have a whole team of 3D modelers who create all the geometry for the game, and then a whole subgroup of that of guys who do the 2D artwork, that paint and light and make the city beautiful. And by the time this game is done, well over 100 people have had their hands on this project.
Our motion graphics panel system is something that really is an immersive quality in the game. From cutscenes right into gameplay, you're really experiencing this living, interactive comic book experience.
We have the biggest array of supervillains and superheroes in any previous Spider-Man game ever.
One of the ones that just sort of rose to the surface through this entire process was Venom.
We go deeper into what causes Venom's origin. Where the comic book covers Spider-Man's genesis, this really goes deeper into the background of how Spider-Man and Venom, as Peter Parker and Eddie Brock, and their mutual fathers as scientists, are intimately intertwined, and how their origins are very much similar, and they're kind of one of the same being.
For years, we've always wanted to do more, and it's always been a really popular thing that the kids wanted. They always want to play as the bad guy, too.
So like all the other Spider-Man games, of course, you're playing Spider-Man. And that means that we get to have Spidey on screen, and you get to bounce off walls, you get to punch the bad guys, you get to swing on your webs, you get to do all these cool things. Well, the first time ever, we get to play the bad guy as well.
So really, the genesis of it is there's 2 video games. There's a Spider-Man video game with a totally unique set of locomotion and combat, and there's a Venom video game with a totally unique set of locomotion and combat. We design a game around each of these guys.
Really, the flip side of being able to play as Venom adds such a different element to the game, and really makes it's so interesting to play both sides of the story. I think it's a cool story element and a really cool player control element as well.
The ability to pick up a car and throw it down the street, to knock off other big villains, to actually pick up a pedestrian and suck all the life out of them is fun. So Venom's the man, or the beast.
When we set out to create this living comic book experience, there were really kind of 2 things that were going to drive that for us, really kind of at the forefront. And one of them was the look of the game, as far as the look of the characters and the look of the environment. So we derive what we call 3D comic inking technology, and it's basically as if you had taken the characters out of the comic book, ripped them off the pages, and thrown them into a 3D gaming world.
In looking at comics to see what we wanted to try to bring to the game, we examined them, and so we went through, and some of the obvious things that came out were panels and storytelling, and comic books use sequential imagery of panels to sort of tell a story. And what we wanted to do was use that in our animation, in our cut scenes, and giving information over to the player. We could bring these panels in and move them into the frame of play.
In this day and age where we can do these multi-pass effects on characters, it's a very cool effect, and as we've shown it around to people at Marvel or elsewhere, it's hugely impactful. I mean, they really get a sense that it's a unique look.
3D comic inking technology is something we created here in-house And when you see the game and you see kind of the different shadows on each individual character, you'll notice that there are different gradations of shadows as you rotate the character around. What it does is it creates this, not only this comic feel for the game, but this more immersive style that's kind of more in-depth.
It really articulates the musculature of the character and the style and the shape of the character. So it's a really just cool looking effect.
I'm definitely more like Peter Parker.
I'm more like Peter Parker.
I think I'm more like a Peter Parker just because at the end of the day, I like to think of myself as the person who comes in and swings through difficult situations and saves the day.
Oh, this hurts already.
I like the dark side of things. I'm a good guy on the upfront, but I certainly like getting in trouble.
Depends on what time of day you talk to me.
I think that depends upon whether or not I've had my coffee in the morning.